So welcome. We are here together, the four of us. I'm Julie Daly. Do you want to introduce yourselves?
I'm Rana Dietrich.
I'm Tanya Geisler.
And I'm Amy Palco.
And we're here this morning for a few different reasons. But we're here because we're part of a group of four women who've been writing together for over 2 years now, and we have found a really beautiful intimacy and trust and love for each other and for our voices and our words. And we want to speak to you about that. Rana and I have a retreat coming up on September 30th, a writing retreat. But that's not the only reason we're here. We're here for a deeper reason. We're here to speak to intimacy and pleasure and longing and desire and what we feel as women to find a space to be together where we can trust each other and go deeper into relationship and hear what's really inside of each other and welcome it out and find a deep love for it and respect. So it's going to be a flowing conversation. We don't really know what's going to come out yet, but I think we're going to begin with what it is that we have found together, the four of us, as a group of women who write together on a regular, intimate basis. When I say that, what comes up for each of you?
For me, I will say that as you were speaking, Julie, I can't remember exactly what the words were exactly, but you said something about how we found each other. And what I notice is my first instinct is to say that there's something about our hearts finding each other, right? We all really deeply love each other and respect each other. But I think what really works about our writing group isn't simply, it's not just simply that there's all this love here. It's like our writing found each other as well. Our writing recognized each other's writing. Our writing bows to each other's writing. And I feel like the container of the love is one exquisite thing that I never, ever, ever take for granted. That recognition that our writing has, that our writing desires on behalf of each other's writing is really palpable and extremely powerful, I know, for me, if I can speak on behalf of my writing, which I can. It said so.
I like that, speaking on behalf of your writing. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think I might say something similar. Like, as you were talking, Julie, I was thinking about the fact that, all of us, but I'll speak for myself, have been writing for a really long time, both in public spaces as well as in private spaces. And our time together, the four of us, is really the first time that I've consistently written with other people, with that kind of accountability, with that kind of seeing, with that kind of intimacy, with that kind of vulnerability. And I think all of us would agree, like, it changes the way that we write. And it doesn't just change the way that we write, it changes who we are. Our relationships with each other have gotten deeper because of the writing, and the writing has gone deeper because of the relationship. And it's just been so transformational and beautiful to experience that with the three of you, to be sure.
Yeah.
And do you see what just happened even right there? And Amy, I just did that thing. But so this is what I feel happens when we are in community, when we're writing. It's this, there's an idea, and then there's another layer to be explored, to be discovered. And this is what, in our writing group, this is what we do because we want so deeply on behalf of each other's writings and for the delights and the surprises that exist within all of us. That's what I feel every single week. Sorry, Amy, you were going to say.
No, I was just going to say that, I always feel that we have a space that's held, we're holding the space for one another, and that allows a truth to come through that doesn't necessarily find its way through other writing that I do. Not that I'm lying in many of my other writing, but I feel like my writing that I'm sharing within this group, particularly, and which is born through this group, is a ferocious truth. And I think that's what I really receive from sitting in the love that's present, that we all hold, and this wanting, our writing wants on behalf of each other, it really allows that voice of truth to come through. So some of the things that I've written about and shared are things that I never thought I would write about, or could never even find the words to put to. So having that in that vulnerability, being held within that intimacy, has been a true treasure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be sure.
And it strikes me as we're talking, you know, I'm looking at the four of us, and this is what we see each week when we get on Hangout together, right? It's as simple as this. You know, if you feel a longing to create something like this, I mean, consider that Amy is in Edinburgh, Tanya's in Toronto, Rana's in Tacoma, Washington, and I'm in San Francisco, and yet we can meet weekly together through Google Hangout, and here we are. And this is what it looks like when we do it, right? It's very simple. We just hop on together, and sometimes we all write a piece and we read it on at our regular meeting time, and sometimes one of us will write a piece and then we will read that piece and everybody will talk about it a bit and give us some feedback and insights.
And other times we talk about how we didn't write anything. And we're really frustrated by that, or we feel badly about that, and we wish it were different. And even that, I think, has been a really powerful space for us in relationship with each other to acknowledge just the really shitty, hard aspects of it at times, and to still be held in that space. So both have been true. Great writing and no writing, and still we're here.
I think my favorite, actually, if I've never thought about this in this way, but I love, I mean, we always big talk about how we're going to have a caveat-free zone and nobody's allowed to qualify anything, and that never happens. But I think my favorite is when we show up with a piece, and it's typically either Amy or I, but it's delightful every time anybody says it. It's like, I really don't know what I have here. And then we show up with this thing. And heart's gone into it, and truth has gone into it, but we cannot see the forest for the trees. And then sharing it in this way, it's like, it's so obvious. It's so obvious to you that this is my body of work. This is the thing that I'm always talking about. This is what is chronic. This is deep within my soul. And I go, oh, there it is. Right. I love that. I love that. And I wouldn't have that anywhere else, except for an environment in which my intention is to create and to write, and can I be safe here, and can I be acknowledged here, and can I be vulnerable here, and can I trust that you will receive whatever it is that I bring. And so we get to do this on a weekly basis. So anytime there's a place where you'll be holding this retreat where that is welcome, oh my gosh, what an intense, beautiful gift. Really gorgeous.
Yeah, I would want to say too is that, obviously we've been meeting, as we've been saying, on a weekly basis for years now. And so there is, a great comfort. There's a great that's been built up within that consistent meeting. But what I think I would want everybody to know is that was actually present from the very beginning.
Yep.
Do you know, it's like, I remember our first call, our first gathering. And right from the very beginning, there was that depth present. There was the opportunity to dive deep. There was that opportunity to say what was true. There was that opportunity to speak from that place of deep desire. And that for me has been as consistent as the meetings have been. Has been just that we've all been able to really drop into that place and deliver our own voices, midwifed by one another.
And as you're saying that, Amy, what I'm thinking about is, how much of that was true because of who the four of us are and sort of the virtual knowing that we had, and maybe even more true, the reason that occurred is because that is what all of us so profoundly desired, was a space in which we would be heard, was a space in which we could express deep truth, not knowing yet if that was what we'd be able to do with each other, but knowing it's what we wanted, even if we couldn't speak of it or articulate it that clearly yet. Yeah.
One of the things too, and I think back about how sometimes it's interesting to think about how things get started, Is it an idea you have? And I have found sometimes the most powerful things are things that just happen, right? There's something else that's bringing it into being. And I know this really got started over a Skype wine date that Rana and I had.
Which is another thing anyone could do, right? You can just drink wine on Skype. Yes.
We had this Skype wine date, and I think we were both, well, I'll speak for me, but I lamenting this feeling of like, I want a place to write the things that feel too scary to put out into the world, but that I need somebody else to actually witness and hear. Mm-hmm. Because so often they were either in my journal or in my head, or on, a note that I would scribble something down on. But I knew that there would be something very powerful about actually putting it out into a bigger piece. And yet, if you don't have anybody to actually witness it, that is a huge part of the creative process, is a witnessing that happens. Not a critiquing, right? Not a praising, but a witnessing. For somebody to sit on the other end and listen, not just hear it, but really listen and get, as best they can, what it is you are trying to articulate that is so, so important to you, so deeply important to you that you're willing to go through that creative process. It can feel so difficult and so hard and so challenging, but you're willing to do it because this has got to get out. And so it was like, where can we go to tell the whole truth? What can we do? And then it was like, well, gee, we could create the space. Wow, wow, let's do that. And this is what we created with the four of us, right? This was it. And so I think honoring that these things come out of this deep desire, a longing, like that impulse for desire is something so important to trust, that there is something inside of you that not only do you want to create it, but you want to have it in your life, and you want to put words to it, right? When I think back on the seed of this, that's what I think is really powerful. Is we knew something, and then being willing to actually put that into action and create it, not knowing what's going to happen. We didn't know what was going to happen.
Right. That's for sure.
And that speaks a little bit to the retreat. It's like that, one of the things that Ron and I have mentioned where we speak about the retreat is that Rana has a practice of sacred writing, and I have one of writing raw. They're practices, and I can speak to writing raw. It's about tapping into that desire. What is the impulse inside that wants to come out? And with the emphasis on inside, because writing raw is about going into your inner world, even realizing you have an inner world. How do you even go in and access it? How do you trust it? How do you navigate your way inside there? How do you find what's in there? Do you turn a light on? Do you light a candle? Do you put your arms along the cavernous walls and, make your way through? Because we're not taught how to go into our inner world. And to me, that's such a powerful process. And it's a powerful process as to the creative process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Sure. Yeah, and I'll speak like for sacred writing, apparently double since I'm echoing, that I think it's similar to, the Skype wine date, right, Julie, where we just had the conversation and then something else appeared. And I think the sacred writing for me is that, right? It's just a practice that I've been doing for forever, like on some level for 30 years. And it keeps changing and it keeps shifting, but it isn't until I can sit and look at it with a little bit of clarity that I say, oh, like I'm actually doing something here that's excavating things I didn't know about myself. The practice actually brings something up in front of me that I look at on the page and go, oh my word, how did I not know that? And I'm shocked by my own words that are in my brain, but that really help me see things out in front and then be able to work with those concepts and those voices and those beliefs, some of which are really beautiful and powerful, some of which are really caustic and nasty, and I just need to be able to see them and then be able to have a dialogue with the voice, with what it is that I've written, in order to be able to hear what's already, the voice I already have. And I think that's what that practice enables for me. So to be able, for me to be able to explore that with my clients, and certainly in the context of the retreat we have coming up, it just feels like great exploratory territory for me. I just feel like that's super fun and exciting to be able to play with just a practice that I use. And then, of course, to watch you do Writing Raw, which I've experienced, and see that live and be able to go into those depths. I'm super excited about what happens when the two of us get to do these things together. And we don't know what that will be because we've not done these things together in this sort of a context. But I can't help but think that it will be pretty phenomenal.
Kidding me, right?
And that's what...
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, I was going to say, that's what really strikes me about this retreat, is it's not only the opportunity to learn these practices from both of you, but to be able to do these practices in community, with that witnessing present, with that safe space being held, with those invitations to really connect with that inner truth and to explore that through this form of self-reflection. And that feels like an immense gift that everybody will receive through their participation in your retreat.
Yeah, and I want to speak to Amy. Have you been in the same space as both Rana and Julie ever? At the same time?
No, not at the same. Only individually.
In the same country, and that was powerful enough, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Same coast.
Same coast. Well, that's like same time zone, almost close enough. I have had the profound pleasure of getting to spend time. Oh my gosh, I actually feel teary about this. Getting time with both of you in the same place, and wow, when I think we have a lot of beliefs about what happens when powerful women come together. And there's going to be shadowing, and there's going to be overshadowing, and there's going to be there's something very dysfunctional that we've been told that gets created when powerful women get together. And my God, we can talk to the patriarchy right there, because that is not what happens. And what I see is feeling verklempt, just remembering of the times that I have been across kitchen tables with the two of you, dancing in living rooms, rolling around on the floor in laughter. There is the physical presence of the two of you in, either on your own is incredible, and there's something extremely exquisite that happens when the two of you come together. And I could sit and watch the two of you in conversation for hours and hours and hours and hours. And yet there is something about it that is so inviting, and I want in that conversation. I want in that circle. I want in that embrace of brilliant ideas and thoughts being shared and hearts being expanded. And it's an incredibly powerful experience to be in your physical presence. I mean, we feel it on these calls, but something to get to touch and to. I will never forget the moment I met both of you.
That's so interesting you say that, Tanya, because thank you for sure, because I think you're right. That's just like a big fat lie that something happens when powerful women get together. Like, I've never had that experience. Like, I'm like, bring it. The more like
something happens, all right, and it's damn sweet.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing competitive, there's nothing threatening, there's nothing scary. It's like the more the better. On every level. And I'm not an introvert, I'm a massive extrovert, but I think at least one, maybe two of you are introverts, and you may say the same thing, right? That you don't like, it isn't overwhelming. It's a powerful experience.
Yeah. One of the things that I noticed too is that when we really found early on that we would only meet when all four of us could meet. I think we tried a few times with the three of us, and it just didn't feel the same. And I think that speaks to how important each of us is when we come together. That it's noticeable, it's palpable who's there, who's not. And so in creating something like this, I think knowing that you each bring this presence to the group, whatever it is that you're longing to create, if this is something that you're longing to create, you bring a presence. That's going to be true for the weekend as well, because while Rana and I have called us to gather, and in a way we are leading it, that by no means means that your presence isn't a key part of what will happen and what can happen. And oftentimes we don't think of things that way. You know, we think that we're going to come in and we're going to learn and we'll be a part of it, but somehow that we don't matter in that way. But I want to tell you that you do. And if you feel a call to come, trust that call. If you don't, trust that, right? That there's, just like we felt this call, this impulse to create this circle, Ron and I felt an impulse to come together and hold this retreat. And I can say with the women that have gathered, I sense that they have also felt the impulse to come, and they've trusted that. So when you feel that impulse and register, know that you're going to be an integral part to that weekend. You're not going to just be sitting on the side. That might feel a little frightening, but there's no way that you couldn't be an integral part of what happens.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Really feeling the invitation of that, Danning, and the welcoming of that. As you said, you know, it could appear a scary thing to be that integral within a group, but actually, you know, that would be to not recognize that we are always an integral part of anything. You know, like how could you not be a part of the greater whole of what's being created? What's really being invited here, I think, is to do that with intention.
Yeah. Right. Right. And I think it's what we're longing for. It might feel frightening, but it's what we're longing for, to be that connected and intimate and vulnerable. And we sometimes have to ease our way into it, right? Which is fine, which is perfectly apropos. The heart needs some comfort and a sense of safety to open in that way. Even the body to open when we're physically together, to open that way. It needs a sense of safety. And I think that's one thing that I feel that we both provide. I can speak for myself. That's something that's very important to me when I hold space or when I teach, that people feel welcome and safe. And I pay attention to how bodies feel and how hearts feel, and to the mood of the room and the sense in the room and the energetic, what's happening.
Yeah, I was thinking when you said that, Julie, that you know, we know ourselves well enough that it's always surprising when other people have different perspectives that don't know you. And I was talking to somebody the other day, and I said, I really am not a scary person. I'm just not scary, like, at all. And I can't quite remember what the context of the conversation was, but I was thinking about it as you were talking about the safety. And so it's those things you take for granted about yourself. Like, I know who I am as a person. I know how much I love being with other people. I know what it means to me to be in relationship with other people that I love and respect and care for, how I behave, who I am in that space. And so it just often feels to me like, of course that's true for everybody, isn't it? Of course that's what you'd expect, isn't it? And yet I think sometimes we have to name that, right? That we don't know what we don't know. So I'm not scary. Julie's really safe. I'm a little scared of Julie's dancing, but we're really.
So let me just say this, though. Let me just say this, because what I just heard somebody there that maybe a little like me, who actually doesn't have So once again, I'm speaking on behalf of our writing. For some, it might be comfortable to gather in groups, but leading with the writing, that inroad, honoring the writing, that might be the edge for there's somebody who's listening right now that I really feel that, where it's like, actually, I'm not afraid of being in community. What I am afraid of is just, oh my God, yeah, I totally feel that too. It's the writing, right? And that, so as much as we're listening to our bodies and to our hearts, listening for that writing, I tell you, people have been telling me that I'm a writer for years, such that I would say I'm not a writer, and of course I do the imposter complex work, and people would say, well, does your blog know that? Does your writing know that? Do all the thousands of words that you create on the weekly know that you're not a writer? But it wasn't until I came to this group that I really started standing in writer, and oh my goodness, the thank yous, the gratitude my writing has shown me. Because of stepping into this, I would call our group something of a practice, not writing raw, not a sacred writing for me. This is what, showing up every week with pieces that I have promised myself and my writing that I would do. But the gift that I have given my writing by being part of this group, by being part of any retreat, by being part of your retreat, I feel that would be an edge for me. So I just want to, again, speak to that person who is struggling with, but I'm not a writer, but I don't know, this is the edge for me.
Yeah. I think that's a really important thing to look at, because I think writing itself is a vehicle. And we can make it be like a big thing, because there are some people that make a living at writing. There are some people that are writers. There are some people who don't see themselves as writers. But what can happen oftentimes when we don't see ourselves as a writer is we don't actually utilize an amazing vehicle for self-expression that just wants to happen, let alone what happens to the words, right? So we want to make sure that everybody knows that you don't have to be a writer to come. If you even secretly want to be, right, come. If you are a writer, come. It's like, it's an avenue, and I mean, it's so many things. And in writing raw, you speak your words aloud. You don't have to, we don't force you, but you not only write them, you actually speak them. And without critique, without praise. So that's another important piece, again, is the witnessing. And I want to bring it back to being fierce for one another, which is really what we call ourselves, with the four of us, right? We're fierce for one another. Can you all speak to what that feels like for you to be fierce for one another, for each of us, right?
We've used those words for so long, but the second that I hear you say them, like,
I know,
my heart just like jumps.
Same. Same.
Like it just feels like the words are too small, but the feeling is so huge that is what's true, that we are fierce for one another. And for the three of you, that is what I am. I know that you are that for me, and it has a bigger sense to it. Like, it feels so huge to say that out loud, and to know that it is a truth, and to really, even as I hear you say it, Julie, to recognize that, yes, that has been unique and distinct for the four of us, and that it speaks to our deep longing and desire that this is what all women would know. So I love hearing the words. Like, I'm like, that's what we do. That's right. I'm so proud of us, and so grateful to be part of us, and just so privileged, I guess, and honored to recognize that isn't just us, that we really feel this individually as well as together on behalf of so much more than just what we create together.
Yeah.
Amy?
I think, didn't we once mention the quote that you didn't need to agree, I'm paraphrasing horribly, but have to agree with what another woman said, you just had to stand beside her as she said it. And that's always really struck me about fierce for one another, and the whole concept that really underpins what it means to be fierce for one another It's this, I will stand beside you as you speak your truth. That you're not abandoned as you do that. There's no fear of not being acceptable in some kind of way, that you can sidestep the good girl and actually speak from that place of very deep and deep authenticity and rediscover your true voice. And that's what Fierce for One Another means for me, is that when I'm moving through my writing, when I'm discovering my voice and when I'm speaking from that place, is that I'm not alone as I do that. And that I'm not going to be ostracized for having said something wrong, or or for speaking out about a taboo, or whatever, or just saying what I actually really need to say, is that I'm in good company, and that company will stay beside me regardless.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I feel like telling the whole truth is the what, and the fierce for one another is the how. So when I sit down to a piece of writing, even if I go, I don't know what this is, but I know it's true. So that's good. That's a start. And then I can deepen into my own writing, knowing that it will be received in the context of fierce for one another. Mm-hmm. And then how then I receive your work. And the part that self-manages, and I'll say this for me, and I suspect that it's true for you as well, when I receive your pieces, the part of me that goes beyond our group and says the world needs to hear this, and so there's a way in which I'm wanting to be fierce on behalf of women everywhere who need to hear what you've written. That's the self-management piece, because we need to be fierce for one another in whatever way feels safest for each of us, and we all make our own way into how we decide to share or not share that which we've created, but always in the context of being fierce for one another. And it's true, Ronna, what you said, man, that feels so huge and so small at the same time. These words just can't contain the bigness of what I feel.
Mm-hmm. And I've noticed for me, as we've been doing this for a few years and we experience what this feels like, I find myself being that way with other women out in the world. I hear a woman post something, or I hear her say something, and whether or not I agree with it, I'm just like, wow, yes, I'm with you, sister. Whether or not I say it out loud, I feel it. Mm-hmm. There's like, it's spreading out into my other relationships, into the world in a different way that comes from having had this experience with the three of you. Mm-hmm. I feel it more deeply in my bones, like I know this experience now, and I can hold it in a different way and in a bigger way. And I think that's a really important piece to shifting things in the world.
And don't you think, Julie, that even speaks to some degree to why we're having the weekend? Because it's been out of this context and this container that the two of us have said, well, hey, what if we could offer this? What if we could expand the experience that we get, really this privileged experience that it feels like the four of us get with each other because of intention and invitation and commitment and accountability and all those kinds of things? Like, is there a way for us to offer that? Is there a way for the two of us, since we happen to be on the same coast and the same time zone, to be able to come together and at least create a taste of this with a different circle? And I think we can. I think that's what we get to do. And I feel similarly to the weekend, the way that I do about our group together. We had no way of knowing what the experience was going to be for us individually or for us as a group. And we don't know that yet for the weekend either. But both of us sit in a place of saying, but I've watched it happen. I know what that looks and feels like. Why wouldn't it just continue to happen in ways that we can't yet anticipate and imagine?
Absolutely. And it makes me realize that I think ultimately, I'll speak for myself, that learning how to be fierce for another, that ultimately what happens is you become fierce for yourself. Mm-hmm. You become fierce for yourself, regardless of what else is happening. And to me, I would leave the weekend if I knew that all of us felt fierce for ourselves. That would be like, All right.
Mm-hmm.
That was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Fierce for oneself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, just to wrap up, Rana, first of all, would you give some details about the retreat?
Sure. So it is Friday, September 30th through Sunday, October 2nd. You can go to my website or Julie's and find that information. Both of us have links to the retreat on our websites, so ronadietrich.com or unabashedlyfemale.com. And obviously, Julie and I are both on Facebook, so there's lots of information about it there. We'll be at a retreat center down in Southern California. Lake Elsinore is the closest. Is that a town or a city? I don't know what it is. But we're flying into Ontario or Orange County or someplace. Anyway, all those details are there on the website. And we're staying at this adorable and lovely and very, very welcoming retreat center that is run by a woman who totally gets absolutely every single thing that we've been talking about today. So I'm excited to be hosted by her. And yeah, so it's the pricing. I mean, it's $750. I can tell you that now. You can go to the website and read about all of that. But all the information is there, and there's space available. So
Great. And then the other piece I want to just ask, because we're going to be doing more in the future with Fierce for One Another, and I think that's, we're sort of we're unveiling it softly here, and lovingly. But I wondered if any of you wanted to say something about that, or just plant a little seed.
It's gonna be hot. As you said, unveiling. I was like, oh, you mean we're peeling the layers off? Woo!
Yeah, I think what I would say is that, and I'm echoing, but anyway, what I would say is that the writing that we've done together is some of the most outstanding writing I've read in a long time. And so I'm really looking forward to sharing that.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's going to be hot.
Yeah, we do have plans to share our writing that we've done together in a particular format. And so if you enjoy our work, pay attention. Be looking for that, and I think it's going to be a fun thing, and it's going to be deep if you know us. It's going to be deep as well, and sensual. I think of all the characteristics of the four of us, what we bring to our work. Powerful, calling forth, truth-telling, joyful. So, yeah,
and
okay.
fierce,
and fierce, and fierce. Absolutely, it is some of the most beautiful work I know that I've written.
Yeah,
so I'm looking forward to it being in people's hands as well. Okay, so I think we're done.
So good to see you, as always.
Okay. Until the next time. Until we do this again with more news. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Love you.
Love you too.